once again. Welcome to the Think Like a Marketer Marketing Strategies for Recruiters webinar. In TalkPush, we created this webinar because we do believe that with a couple of tips from marketing, we can definitely level up the game of each recruiter on the recruited industry. So I'm going to go over some house rules first. All right, just wanted to remind you guys that you are in listening only mode, so you can hear us, but we cannot hear you. Now, don't let this something to be shy. Please ask as many questions that you guys would like to have. We're happy to answer each one of them. Remind you as well, guys, that we're currently working from home, and we're also recording this webinar. So you will receive on your inbox short presentation about this webinar, the recording as well. And if you want to share this content on your social media, please feel free to use the hashtag ThinkLikeAMarketer and hashtag TalkPushRealGood. Let's just enjoy. I'm going to start giving the welcome to Max, who we're very lucky to have him. He's our CEO here at TalkPush. So Max, the word is yours.
Thank you, Pablo. And hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, wherever you're logging in from. I'm the CEO of TalkPush. We're a recruitment software company which deals with really high volume. And we built a bunch of technology that helps us to manage wide recruitment funnels, which require very wide advertising and marketing funnels. So naturally, we've had the opportunity to work with cutting edge recruitment marketing teams who are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in marketing and investing in their content strategy and so on. And in our years in the space, we've come across some really, well, like I said, cutting edge professionals and people who are deep experts in the field of recruitment advertising. And so really excited to see what we're gonna hear from our two speakers today, Adam Chambers and David Lim, who represent Applichat and Thinkcrumbs, and who are two experts in the field of digital advertising, and particularly on Facebook and other high volume channels. I thought I would kick it off by saying, well, first of all, we live in a world where it's never been easier to have a lot of data. And so the problem has, in a way, shifted from where can I get candidates to how can I manage all those candidates, which is a very different problem. And this is not simply a trend which dates back from, I mean, this trend started a long time ago, 20 years ago, but it's actually still accelerating, meaning it's in 2020, you can get way more leads than we can get in 2019. Strangely, even though in 2019 it was already probably an age of plentiful in terms of generating leads and candidates. In 2020, it's even more so. We were just commenting on the fact that the cost per impression, cost per leads has dropped considerably over the course of this crisis. And on top of that, the trends that had already started with some of the aggregators that are providing free traffic to employers, such as Facebook Jobs and Google Jobs, are further accelerating during this time because people have more time at home, more time to browse, more time to search, more time to apply for jobs. And so the volumes are going up. And at TalkPush, we were lucky enough to work with some of the largest employers in the world. And we can see their candidate traffic has increased considerably. And while companies are still feeling a little bit timid and shy about hiring, we have more than double the volume of candidates that we had back in March, in the month of June. And that is not driven by advertising. You know, people have not increased their advertising budget, but they are getting more volume nonetheless. So does this mean that we should, advertising is over, advertising is dead? Not at all. I think there's two facets to advertising. One of them is indeed finding your audience. The other one is making sure that you're attracting the right kind of audience. And today, the opportunity is there for you employer, employment branding experts to attract the right kind of audience by having a very differentiated message, which is where the battle lies today. We have anybody who spends time on LinkedIn, and I assume everybody on this webinar spends time on LinkedIn, as talent acquisition professionals do, will agree that it has become an overload of spam, of noise, and it's very hard to get heard, very hard to stand out. Kind of the way Facebook was a few years ago. And in this environment, I've seen over the last few weeks, some employers who were able to adjust their strategy very quickly, sound more authentic, create more unique content, and win market share in that sense. In the war for talent, win market share and win mind share by standing out from competition. In a world where everybody is advertising, everybody is moving online, where every company is doing webinars as well, it's not just talk push, then it's really boils down to the quality of the content and the authenticity of the message. So that's kind of leveling the playing field. It means for people who are on this call who do not have a big advertising budget, okay, we don't expect that you do, entering into Q3 2020, obviously your finance department is not going to give you an increased social media advertising budget, compared to the beginning of the year, considering the recession. But even if you move 20% of your ad spend from job boards to social media, you're going to be able to experiment and do a lot of things with that tiny 20% budget. Because if you have a real differentiated message where you can talk about something that you're doing that's uniquely speaking to our time, for example, you could talk about how you're taking care of your work, your work from home program, or your company culture, or how you're adapting to the new normal. This kind of messaging will find an audience in this current climate and will allow you to attract a lot of candidates for a fraction of the cost that it would cost you under normal circumstances, and that it would cost you only 6 months ago. So this is a great time to experiment, and I think this is what we're seeing with our customers. Pablo, if you could share the slide that I sent you with the data from, yeah. So this is this one. Thank you. This is the number of job applications that are coming through our software and through Facebook Jobs. And Facebook Job currently does not charge for advertising, meaning these applications are just coming in free of charge and being passed on directly to our customers. And so far, Facebook is not advertising for it. They will at some point in the future. And we have the same trend actually happening with job boards and with aggregators like Google Jobs. And so, as I said, there's more volume, more volume than ever. So I think the battle has shifted a little bit to who has the biggest budget, to who has the most unique voice. And I think there's nobody better qualified to speak on this particular topic than Adam, who has started a company called Applichat, who is specialized in conversational interfaces for recruitment and social media sourcing. So with that, I'll pass it over to you, Adam.
Thanks very much, Max. I appreciate your introduction. And yeah, we're using Facebook Jobs a lot. So in my agency, we help recruiters like you all source for hard to fill roles using social media. So we're all about getting in front of candidates where they like to spend time and making it very easy for them to apply to your jobs. So what I'm going to talk about today is how we're using that, specifically for nurse hiring, which is a major job shortage in the USA, but this can work for any role really using social media. Big shout out to everyone from Vidant here today. I hope you're going to learn a lot, and I'm going to sort of share what we can implement. So there's my face. Yeah, Applichat. So our speciality is really a consultative approach for sourcing difficult positions. So clients come to us and say, Adam, we can't hire enough nurses. We've used Indeed, we've used LinkedIn, we've tried cold calling. It just isn't working. How can we get in front of our ideal candidates, and how can we actually get them to change their lives and come and work for us? The solution and the way you do that is by making them offers. So what I'm going to discuss today is really about how we can make offers to our candidates and how we can disrupt the patterns of scrolling on social media to make them stop, look at the ad, and actually take action on it. So I first want to outline, if you're not really convinced already, the impressive opportunity which exists. So Max went over it there, and I'm just going to reiterate it and make it relevant for jobs. So 10 times many people every single month would go on Facebook or Instagram than all the job boards and Indeed. So I'll close that notification for you. So yeah, people are going on it. Okay, more people are going on it than the job boards, and I think it's about 60 to 70% of nurses would go on Facebook or Instagram every single day. And the average person within that demographic would spend 2 hours or more on those sites. So just imagine people are scrolling for 2 hours or more each day. 60 to 70% of them are doing it. And these platforms run off advertising. So, you know, Facebook owns Instagram as well, and they make money by serving ads to customers and, in this case, candidates. Whenever someone clicks on the ad, Facebook makes money, so they will show that ad more. The opportunity compared to job boards, I just want to make it a little bit more clear, is we looked at demographics. So we looked at Ontario in Canada, and we just looked at nursing jobs, and we found 974. Next step, we looked at those hospitals and agencies, health authorities that advertised on Indeed, and we only found 20 of them posting jobs on Facebook. So now if you actually think about the visitors to jobs posted ratio, for Facebook, it's over 3,000, but on the job board, it's 5 to 10. So massive opportunity, massive market, and a massive opportunity to get ahead of your competition who are trying to recruit the same people. However, historically, like the reason my agency exists is there's a bit of a problem with sourcing on Facebook. So of all the different categories of jobs or of ads posted on Facebook and Instagram, jobs actually get the lowest amount of clicks. So less than a third of the best performing category, which is legal ads. And in my opinion, like the reason for this is threefold. So a lot of job ads just start with saying, we're hiring, this is what you get, submit your resume here. The fact is that most people on Facebook are scrolling, they're looking at pictures of cats, they're chatting to their friends, and they're rarely going to have time to go away and create a CV. And because they're what we call passive candidates, so mostly not seeking a new job, they're rarely going to have an up-to-date CV to send to you. They're just not going to disrupt their schedule and disrupt their social experience to go off and go over to their computer and create a resume. That kind of leads into point 2, which is making a 2 direct call to action. So asking people who have seen your ad for the first time, perhaps learned about your company, your hospital for the first time, to create a whole job application for you. And the third would be really shooting yourself in the foot. If you do a great job on the ad, great job on the targeting, whenever someone clicks the ad, if they go to a career site where they have to make an account, create a password, tell their life story, register, all that stuff, it disrupts the experience for the candidate, and it actually results in Facebook showing your ad less. So Facebook prefer to show ads which get more engagement and results, because then their customers will pay Facebook more money. So whenever you put up an ad which links to a career site which doesn't generate applications and isn't optimized for mobiles, your ad's going to perform less, you're going to waste money, and you're going to sort of go around in that circle of wasting budget, not getting enough candidates, looking for another solution, and wasting money. So what is the solution to that? I want this to be very actionable and something which you can all go away and implement in the next couple of weeks to source more candidates from these sites. And to sum it up in 3 words, it's called a pattern breaking offer. So to help you visualize this, I've split it into 3 separate divisions, which I'm going to sort of use as the structure for my presentation here. So a pattern breaking offer is something which stops your ideal candidate from scrolling, convinces them to engage with your job ad, and then provides an easy way for them to exchange information with you. Whenever you advertise outside of job boards and on sites like Facebook and Instagram, you're competing against McDonald's, you're competing against Gap, all the biggest brands in the world are vying for attention, and they will use this exact same strategy. So they will post an offer which stops the target customer scrolling. It'll make them keen to engage, and then it'll provide an accessible way for them to make a purchase. So this isn't something I invented like in my bedroom here. I'm in my bedroom right now. This is something which has been tried and tested, and billions of dollars being spent on this. So before we get started, I just want to do a little bit of a poll for everyone watching. You're going to get the opportunity to vote on this and have a guess how many feet does the average person scroll on their phone each day. So just sort of like this, how many feet would people scroll on their phone per day? Drum roll.
All right, so I'm just going to give a few seconds. All right, there it is. So those are the results.
600, okay. I'm interested if anyone in here scrolls 600 feet a day, and what are you looking at if you do? So I think I would be in that 600 mark because I'm just always like on Facebook for some reason. The answer is, if I can go to the next slide here, is actually 300 feet a day. So that's the size of the Statue of Liberty. 300 feet a day. You need to do something which is going to stop that person in their 300 feet journey. And that's really what I mean when I say stop the candidate scrolling. You need to put something in front of them which makes that thumb pause, makes that brain go, this is interesting, this breaks the pattern, and this makes me want to do something about it. And the biggest and the most effective way to do that is through an image. So we as humans love to look at things. We're very curious creatures, and whenever someone sees a striking sort of emotional image which is bright colors, which shiny objects, they will usually have a look at it at least for a few seconds and give it some of their attention. Now, I also want to know a bit about what images you think work and what images you all use for job ads. Could you let me know in another poll who would use stock photos like this one in your job ads?
All right, perfect. So people is answering. There it is. All right, let me share those results with you.
Oh, cool. So we got, most people said absolutely not. Nice. And then 30% yes, 38% sometimes. I would probably fall into, like, I think sometimes if I have to is fair enough. I would say if you're a staffing agency, it's fair enough. sometimes you can't go into the employer and put an ad up. But if you work in a hospital or if you're working in-house, in my opinion, really there's no excuse for using stock photos, because it's so easy to just take your camera out and go and take a picture of people working and doing their jobs. So we actually tested this. We put up a stock photo like this one on the right, and then we put up a photo like this one on the left of real people, and this one on the left here got 50% better conversions. And whilst we can't be 100% sure why, a few things. If I'm scrolling that 300 feet a day, one of the things that is going to make me stop is if I see someone who is exactly like me and who is in a similar situation to me. So if I was a nurse and I saw the one on the right here, let's just talk a little bit about what would interest me. So there's 3 nurses in this photo, or 3 medical staff at least. You've got one smiling, looking on in the background. You've got sort of mother and father type figure here, and you've got a child in the middle in a car. The research behind this was we talked to the hospital and said, what sort of situations do your nurses enjoy being in? And they said they enjoy caring for families and seeing their patients happy. Whenever you compare that to this photo here, it's a much more realistic situation. It's a much more natural situation. And it really just breaks the pattern of other stock photos on social media, because even there we saw like 1% of people use stock photos, and really most recruiters who post job ads haven't really got to the stage yet where they're not using them. And I've even heard reports of like different hospitals using the same stock photo to advertise their roles. Whenever you use something like this, it captures attention. It has people's eyes looking deep into the soul of the candidate, and it really just sort of makes them stop and look at it. And that's really all you got to do with the image in your social media job ads. Replace the stock with the reality and get people to stop and sort of drink in the photo. So once you've done that, you've made them stop, you've used an interesting photo. Maybe you've got it from your branding team, your marketing team, or even if you've just gone into the office and took a photo. How can you convince people to actually engage with your advertisement? Because if you look here, less than 0.5% of people on Facebook would ever click a job ad. This is the most important thing, most important part of your offer. And really this is about, as I said, being like big brands and making offers which get people clicking. So again, I want this to be really actionable. So if you're taking notes, split this into 4 parts, and that would be calling out your ideal candidates' pain points, which they would experience currently. Name the clear reason for taking action. Let them know why the new role will be of direct benefit to their lives, and highlight the urgency of taking action. So I'm going to show you an example of a job ad for nurses, ICU nurses in Toronto, and we actually managed to hire 2 nurses for $3,500 using this ad, using this offer, which saved the client about $30,000 in what they would have paid staffing for. So this is the $30,000 job ad, and I'm going to explain it. If you look in the second paragraph, you can see, you know, we even had a mistake in the punctuation. We didn't put a question mark after nurse. Even with that, it still performed really well. That's because we made a direct offer to our ideal candidates. So let's talk through this. Let's have a look on how this is structured and how this was built. You can see in the first line, we start off with calling out the audience. So again, if you want people to stop scrolling so much, you have to communicate directly with them and break the pattern. If you put in the first line of your advertisement their location and their job title, it's going to trigger something in their brain, compared to if you just say we're hiring. So it says, hey, Toronto ICU nurses. Whenever we just sort of, check off each of these, we're going to call out their pain point next. So the way you do this is you talk to your current employees, you talk to your current candidates, and you talk amongst yourselves as recruiters, and you say, what do our ideal candidates and our employees dislike about either their current job or their previous job? So with this hospital, it was ICU nurses having to do administration. So that's the pain point. We have identified that they don't like doing administration. They want to focus on caring for the sickest of the sick when they need the nurses the most. So that's all we did. We called out the pain points they experienced in their current job. We drastically reduced the admin. So again, think about it. Think about what difficulties your ideal candidates are facing, and then employ that in your advertisement. Next, you want to name the clear reasons for taking action, and then kind of let them know how it will be of direct benefit. So you can see here, we put sort of 3 little ticks saying the main reasons. They would get an education bursary, they would get the opportunity to do less admin and follow their calling, and then they could experience working in a digital setting. So really kind of drilling home the benefits of taking action is going to make someone do it. It's much better than talking about yourself, saying we're a world-leading hospital who have this many patients, this many beds. People don't care about that so much. They care about how that is going to change their lives and their career. So if you say we're a world-leading hospital, what's that going to do for me? We could have said we're a technological hospital. We've got advanced data. We did bring that in. We say we have a digital command center, but the benefit of that to you is informing your decisions better using hospital-wide data. So make it all about the benefits to the candidate, and really focused on them instead of yourself. The final one I want to point out is the urgency aspect. So a lot of major brands will do this as well. They'll say limited amount or limited time only, and even if you can hire anyone you get, there's always going to be a limit to the amount you can process. So I would encourage you to say, we're seeking 1 person, 2 people, 5 people for this role, so that people take action and have a bit of urgency there. So that's an offer. That's an example of an offer. And if you would like, after this webinar, go away, create something a bit like this even you can do it on a job board or on social media, and then send it to me, Adam Chambers, on LinkedIn, and I'll let you know what I think about it. But again, review this slide. So here's the 4 points about making an offer, and take massive action, put something out there, see how it goes. The final point I want to make, so we had our image, which makes them stop. We have our offer, which makes them want to take action. Now we need to provide an accessible way for them to take a next step. So don't ask for a resume, and don't send them directly to a homepage of a career site where they need to search for a role. That's very difficult to track. There's several ways you can play this. So instead of actually putting on your job ad, apply now, you could say, click learn more to find out if this is a good match for you, or click send message to find out how much extra you can earn. What this does is this gets more people to engage with your ad, so that Facebook will know that people enjoy engaging with this. We're going to promote that above, say, the competitor's ad, who only get people clicking who want to apply. I always recommend putting a bit of automation screening in between the click and the application, so you can use a landing page or a chatbot like TalkPush to ensure only qualified people get through. just because social media sites are built on a paid advertising model, they always promote the ads which get the most interest and engagement from the users of the site. So it's really useful to trial these different calls to action to see which one your candidates respond best to. So just to sum up, I'd love to answer any questions you have at the end. There are three kind of main points that you want to follow here in advertising on social media. So number one is you want to stop people scrolling that 300 feet a day by using a real life image. Then you want to convince them to engage with the ad with a relevant offer, which speaks to their deepest desires and highlights the benefits of how you can solve their problems. And then number three, you want to provide an accessible way for them to exchange more information and start a conversation with you. So I hope this helped. Send me a message on LinkedIn if you have any questions. This is my name. This is my LinkedIn code or whatever. And yeah, I'm going to take some questions at the end, so stick around for that. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. Those are great advices. I really appreciate it. And like he said, any question, please feel free to put it on the chat, and we're going to go over at the end of the webinar answering those questions as well. So we do have our next speaker, which is David Lim. It's a pleasure really to have you. Thank you so much, David. He is performance marketing lead for Thinkcrumbs. Who's gonna talk now and give us some great advices. So we're just thank you so much, David.
Awesome. Thanks, Pablo. So hi, everyone. My name is David, and I am the founder of Thinkcrumbs. We are a performance marketing agency. Essentially, we utilize all types of paid advertising across the board in all industries. And one of them is also in the jobs industry. So today I actually wanted to go over some action steps that you guys can take immediately to actually elevate the processes that you already do at the moment. So let me just share my screen. Awesome. All right. So first things first, what I actually wanted to go over was how we communicate with our existing audience, right? So today I actually wanted to go about in controlling the narrative, and it's more on optimizing your ad strategies for your ideal customer experience. And when I say customer, for some of the people we have today, it may be candidates that you are ideal candidates that you are looking to hire, or it can even be customers that you want to get. So these fundamentals can be essentially used across the board. So are we communicating the right way to talent? In the context of actually hiring and talent acquisition, we want to make sure that we fully understand who we're speaking to, right? So let's say we go into more specifics, such as do we know how we should be speaking to people based on their position, based on their technical requirements, or based on certain talent personas? The way I would speak to somebody on the rank and file level versus somebody I'm speaking to at the C level or managerial level is definitely different. They both have different aspirations. They both have things they are both comfortable with, and they both have different drivers of motivation as well. So going back to what Adam was actually saying beforehand and how you draft up your actual ad in terms of copy, you want to make sure you first understand how you can actually speak better or communicate better to your talent personas. This way you have a higher chance of actually stopping them from the very onset of advertising, right? You don't want to be like every other marketer out there is just pushing out something, apply now, just go to a job, end up on a career page. So those things every other company will be doing. So how you can essentially stand out is from looking at from an end scenario, working backwards, right? So based on your customer personas, based on your higher talent personas, you want to make sure to understand what they really want and what their fears, their motivations are, and utilize those data points to actually improve the copy for your advertising. So that's the first part, right? So let's say we already understand who we're speaking to. We already understand how we need to speak to these individuals. The next up is we have to now understand how to utilize the existing platforms, right? When I say existing platforms, this is for the example of Facebook. So let's talk about your ad objectives. Now, for most of you out there who have already done advertising, let's say on Facebook, you'll probably know that Facebook offers you different types of ad objectives to push out. Now, why it's important to actually look at this in the first place? Number one, it will heavily affect the cost of advertising that you do for your business. And again, this isn't just for hiring, it's also for other industries as well. Now, how it works essentially is that you have a little bit of machine learning involved in advertising, which is why myself as a performance marketer, we always make sure to take a look at the data. So let's get into it. From the leftmost side of my screen, you'll notice that it says brand awareness or reach. So Facebook offers an ad objective called brand awareness or reach, right? So with brand awareness and reach, you're telling Facebook, I actually want to find more people or just reach more people. Regardless of the quality of the audience or regardless of the quality of who you're speaking to, the ad will help you find more people. How you can actually augment this type of advertising is, of course, you do more detailed targeting, but overall, a brand and awareness and reach objective will help you find more people. Now, I do suggest to use the brand awareness or reach if you're at the scale, if you're a bigger company and really want to reach out to a massive scale, right? Not just something that's hyper localized or something that's or focused on just one city. Although it is a possibility, the brand awareness and reach objective is really for massive scaling in terms of getting people aware in terms of brand recall, people aware of your brand as in general. Now, the example that I actually place here is by McDonald's. So McDonald's was hiring not just a rank and file level, but more on at the managerial level, right? They were hiring restaurant managers. So what they did is that they pushed out this ad towards towards a local group, a local ad set, and the goal of it is really to make sure people are aware that they are hiring for managers. Now, that's one very specific case scenario when you're using brand awareness and reach, where you want to just reach more people. If you're a bigger company again, and your budgets are maybe not really infinite, but then in the higher average level, then you may want to explore this type of objective because the cost of actually reaching the certain users is cheaper essentially overall. Now, the next ad objective in the middle is what I call page post engagement, or PPE as we call it. Now, the page post engagement ad objective, I believe, is much more specific in terms of campaign oriented push. Now, the ad I did place here is from VXI. VXI is a call center. And what they did is they grabbed a group of individuals from their company, and they placed a curtain in the middle, right, middle of the room, and in between those, in the each side of the curtain, you have two individuals, right? One individual who is an actual call center employee, and one who's probably just a random bystander. And what they did is that they asked the bystander to give their opinion of what they think about call center employees. And mostly the opinions were kind of harsh. Call center employees are barbaric. They're not educated. So on the other side of the curtain, you have the call center employee just listening to all this. And what this triggers essentially in terms of advertising is emotion. Where I would use a page post engagement ad on Facebook is if you're very much running a campaign level specific type of execution, wherein it's for a limited time only. I would say probably around the 3 to 6 month period. If you're running a very campaign specific, you got a production company, you made a very engaging video and you want to push it to a good degree, then you may want to explore the page post engagement. So how is it different from the brand awareness part? So in terms of actual optimization and machine learning, the page post engagement gets people to react more to your certain post. Okay, it's very different from getting people aware about your brand versus getting people aware of the type of campaign you are running at the moment. So a brand awareness type of campaign you can probably run for a longer period of time. For a page post engagement campaign, if you're doing very campaign specific objectives, then this is something that you want to do as well. Now, onwards to the third type of objective, and this is something that I believe more businesses are used to doing, is more of a direct response type of marketing, which is direct to messenger. A direct to messenger essentially means that you are optimizing your advertising to get people to message you on Facebook, right? As more specifically, the messenger platform. And what this does is that the type of creative you can essentially use is more focused in terms of the benefits you are giving to your talent personas. So in my example here, if the salary is something that's very important to the people you're speaking to, then I see no problem why we cannot highlight the salary at the first onset of the ad itself, meaning the creative. So that's something that we can definitely do. Now, the thing about this is that you can be smart about it, right? So if let's say you are a multi-hub type of business right now and you're across the board dealing with different types of languages, different types of people. So you can do hyper localized targeting that matches up with your advertising as well and direct to messenger. This way it becomes more personal as well. And you have the ability to change the creative as you please. So that way you have a higher probability of actually getting people to respond to your ad. So at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is we just have to make sure to take a look at all the different types of optimizations we are doing, right? Because if we aren't certain and if we were not really sure how each of these objectives have played for us, then there's really no benchmark. But then as we move forward, as we do a lot of more A/B testing, you'll be able to find out which one works for you guys better. Now, one very important thing to note is that the goal of an ad is to get a click. The goal of an ad is not to get a sale. It's not to get somebody hired immediately. The main goal of an ad is to get a click. It's a different way of saying the main goal of an ad is to sell the next step, right? So that's what I want to talk about as well. So the next step is actually what happens in we have a couple of use cases that can happen, right? So for example, on the left side of my screen, you'll see that, okay, we have an ad, all right? It's a more direct response creative. Let's say brand awareness creative, we're looking for you. And what happens is if I click on it, it might bring me to a landing page, right? So that's use case number one. When somebody clicks on your ad, you can choose to bring them to a landing page. But something here that I see a lot of marketers and the businesses don't do as well is that sometimes their landing page isn't conversion focused, as we call it. So a conversion focused landing page is something wherein it's not just a video, some text, and an apply now button, right? It's not just that. Every other page looks like that, and we don't want to be that. A conversion focused landing page in the context of hiring would include maybe a campaign video that I showed to you earlier, a main power statement that you could actually implement on the page, highlight the pains, benefits, and pain points of the talent persona of your customers or ideal hires that you're actually talking to. This way, when somebody goes through the actual landing page, there's a conversation, right? I see it as relationship building. And as we go through the slides later on, you'll see how this can add up to your entire ecosystem. But the general idea is we don't want to just waste your budget to bring your hires and bring traffic to a landing page that isn't conversion focused to begin with. Otherwise, you might see potentially 50 to even 100% increase in your advertising if you're just bringing them to a landing page that is not conversion focused, right? Of course, there will always be opt-ins and call to actions on the landing page. It's just a matter of how we lay it out, how we communicate in terms of copywriting, and making sure that we really know who we're speaking to. Now, the good thing about this is that you can actually augment the landing page as well with other solutions, right? Maybe you want to add in a scheduling system, maybe you want to add in a qualification questionnaire, or maybe some third-party solutions. So a cool thing about this is maybe you can even add a feedback loop, right? Wherein the landing page essentially can qualify the audience before they actually get to you and be considered as a lead. Because if you're doing really massive hiring and you're reaching out to a huge number of people, you don't want to spend every waking second and every waking minute of your day just trying to qualify these individuals. What you want to do is make sure that you also have a system in place where it automates that part. And eventually, all you have to do is make sure that maybe final interviews, or probably just making sure that this really is a person that you want to hire, right? So definitely this is something that TalkPush can do. I do believe you can build very conversion-focused landing pages on TalkPush. Now, the general idea of a landing page is to qualify and convert, right? Again, if we think about it, the fundamentals is the goal of every step prior to actually getting the lead is to sell the next step. The goal of an ad is to sell the next step, which is to get them to visit the landing page. And the goal of the landing page is to sell the next step, which essentially is get them to opt in. Now, again, this is where we have to make sure it's conversion focused. But at the end of the day, it's to qualify and convert. Now, if this is something that you guys aren't doing, this is definitely, I do encourage you guys to explore how to improve or let's say, make your landing page a little bit more conversion focused. So let's go to use case number 2. Now for use case number 1, we're talking about landing pages, but for use case number 2, and this is what I believe you guys do a lot as well, is instead of leading them to a landing page, you lead them straight to Messenger. So how that works is the main benefit, of course, of a direct to Messenger campaign is that somebody doesn't need to leave Facebook to actually build a relationship, right? What happens is if I click on the ad, it leads me direct to Messenger. Probably it's an iframe or an inbuilt type of pop-up, and I'll have the Messenger chat right there, similar to what you see on my screen. Now, the general idea is the same. The goal of the Messenger is to always qualify and convert. And I do believe this is something that TalkPush does very, very well, wherein if you're running a more direct response type of marketing, right? And you know the benefits and features that you want to highlight based on the pain points we know of your talent personas, then there's a likelier chance that your ideal personas or ideal hires will actually click through the ad. And we have a metric in marketing. It's called a click-through rate, or as we call it, a CTR, which is the percentage of people who click through after seeing an ad, right? So essentially doing everything that was just we spoke about over this webinar will help you improve your CTR. If you're spending a lot of budget and you notice that your CTR is looking kind of monotonous, and isn't improving, then it might be a good thing to actually take a look at improving your creative. But then let's say you do realize that you are getting a lot of traffic but not getting leads, then you might consider improving your landing page or improving the copy, how it is on how your Messenger bot is set up. So essentially, Messenger can do that all for you, right? It's just a matter of putting up the system, making it a little bit more automated. Messenger can also qualify and convert all the way to the part wherein they can schedule a meeting for you. I've tried it myself. I've seen the capabilities, and it's something that I do encourage a lot of talent acquisition departments to utilize. It'll make the process a lot more easier, and at the end of the day, you're not left with people who you don't want to hire, right? You're left with people who are qualified, pre-qualified, and can provide you with value at a very immediate onset. So those are the main two use cases that can happen once you get a click, right? You can either bring them to a landing page or bring them to the messenger bot. But the idea is the same. The landing page with the messenger bot, qualify and convert the ad to make sure you get the click. So what's next, right? So we know all of these things. We know how to run an ad. We probably set up the landing page and have probably taken a look at which one works in general in terms of creatives. But then I actually wanted to take this opportunity to go into a deeper level of understanding. I myself, I am very data oriented and very much focused on the numbers. And this is something that I'd like to speak to you guys about as well. Now, let's go into analytics and tracking, right? You don't know what you don't know. If you're blind in terms of the certain data points, or you are unaware of certain data points that could have provided you value, then that means there might be a chance that you're making decisions that aren't very data driven, right? If you're making decisions based on feeling and based on opinion without any data, then how can we be so sure that what's effective or what's ineffective? So that's why it's very much important to go into the deeper level, which is the numbers, right? So I'll start off very simple. For everybody here in this call, I hope if you guys don't know, Facebook has something that we call a Facebook pixel. Now, a Facebook pixel is essentially a piece of code, and again, this is totally free, that Facebook offers for everybody, that you can install on your own website, a landing page or whatnot. Now, and on the right side of it, you'll see Google Analytics or Google Tag Manager. Now, Google Analytics functions the same way. It's a piece of code that you can install on your website. It can install on your landing page. That can provide you with a wealth of data for you to actually determine if what you are doing is effective or not. So let me go through some of the data points that you can actually track. Number one, with the Facebook pixel, you can actually track website visits. Now, website visits is a very surface level data point that doesn't really provide so much value other than how much traffic is going to your website, right? Now, what you can actually, the good thing about this is that you can actually track how many people are visiting which page of your of your website, right? So let's say you have a career page and you have probably a dozen, 50, 100 career landing pages that you have up, and you can easily merchandise all of these pages on your website almost immediately. And what you want to do is, using the Facebook pixel, you want to make sure you are able to track how many people are visiting which part of your website. And I'll explain why in a little bit. Now, with the Facebook pixel as well, you can track your form submissions, right? So for every person who actually visits a certain page, let's say a certain career page, a certain job page, how many of them are actually clicking on submit form or actually clicking on your call to action button, right? And why is it important to track this? If in your eyes you do believe that you have a conversion focused landing page, and let's say you have 1,000 people going to this a certain page, 2,000 people going to this certain page, but then your form submissions are below 1%, meaning only 0.5% of the people visiting this page actually decide to actually apply, then there might be two things that could be the problem. Number one, you're sending the wrong traffic, or number two, your landing page is not as conversion focused as you expected, meaning you can take a look at adjusting the copy or probably adjusting the layout a little bit, right? So that's a few things that you can get from this data point. And of course, you can track link clicks. Link clicks is more of a top funnel or an awareness type of a data point, wherein you want to make sure, or you want to see how much people are actually clicking through your ad. Similar to how Adam was speaking about creating the perfect copy, not using stock photos, making sure that it's very really just drilled down into reality. Then you want to make sure if the actual creatives you are using is effective or not. Now, going back to it, it really, if for myself, if you guys are using, let's say, stock photos or more photos that are more organic, either way, whatever it may be, you want to take a look at how much link clicks you are getting to properly evaluate if it really is, if your hypothesis of this one will work better than the other really is true. Because if let's say if we're running ads and we don't have any visibility on them, our assumption is that probably one will work better than the other. But we always want to make sure to let data do the talking and not just our feelings or opinions do the talking, right? So this is where the link clicks, this is where the click-through rates will come in. Now, another data point that we want to make sure to take a look at is page scrolls. A lot of people stay away from long landing pages, right? Or long form landing pages, wherein you have a bunch of copies, a bunch of call to actions, make it a little bit longer than the usual landing page. For myself, I do believe that I wouldn't shy away from long form landing pages. There is a lot of value to long form landing pages. It's just a matter of making sure that the copy you do implement on these pages are very much the right copy and you're speaking to the right audience. So why is this data point important to track? And to give you an example, if you have a long form landing page, somebody who actually goes through the page, let's say 50% of the page, versus somebody who goes through 75% of the page, I think it's a valid hypothesis to assume that somebody who scrolls through 75% of the page is more likely to be more interested in the job that they are applying for, or the action they are to take. So those are definitely some things that you guys have to consider. Now, again, I don't want to take too much time on this, so let's move on to the Google Analytics side. Now, for the Google Analytics side, this is more on tracking your bounce rate, right? So to give some context for bounce rate, it is essentially how many people click on your ad and go to the page, but don't end up taking another step, right? So this is the percentage of people who essentially end up not going to another page, or people who exited the page immediately, right? So that's what the bounce rate is. If your bounce rate is probably around 60 to 80%, then that's a pretty high average. And you want to make sure you bring that down to around 50, 40%. And what this means is that we're essentially trying to make sure that our page is more engaging, and we elevate the experience of the customer, of the client, of your ideal hire as they go through your page. Now, another metric you do want to take a look at is tracking the time spent on the pages, right? How long are actually people spending on your pages? If they scroll through the pages, if they scroll through your page 75%, but they are spending only around 10 seconds on the page, that means they just did a couple of swipes and then left. So merging these two data points will help you understand who it really is you're trying to look for, and if this individual already exists in your entire ecosystem, right? Because maybe if we aren't really tracking all of these things, then how do we know they don't already exist? And this is something that that's very important moving forward. Tracking the time spent on pages is a good indicator of how well you have built your landing page, or probably some sort of website. It can either be a landing page, website, whatever it may be, right? And what Google Analytics can do, moving on to the next data point, is it can also help you track the top pages being visited on your website, right? So this goes back to my earlier comment about if you have a career site, let's say, and I really have nothing against career sites. It's just a matter of if it's conversion focused or not. If you have a career site with probably around 10, 50 separate individual career pages, and each one with their own URLs, each one with their own traffic, you want to take a look at which one of your pages are being visited the most, right? Which one of these pages have the highest amount of traffic, which one of those have the least amount of traffic, and why, right? Is it because the copy is different? Is it because we're pushing out ads to different pages? Is it because if we push ads to the home page, we merchandise these pages more than the others? So it's essentially an ecosystem, right? You want to think about it that way, wherein you have multiple things working hand in hand at the same time, and it's never just one is to one. There's always moving components of your whole ecosystem. So let me go through some of the action steps that you can actually take immediately once you understand what the data is pointing out to you. So with Facebook Pixel, once you know everything that I just spoke about, you'll be able to understand which jobs need boosting based on prioritization. So if you have 15, 20 career sites, career pages, each with varying amounts of traffic, and you notice that there are some pages that are not getting enough traffic, and assuming that you have a limited ad spend, you want to think about it very strategically, wherein you move your advertising budget towards careers that are not getting enough organic reach or not getting enough priority. So this way, you can essentially match your pipeline in terms of your of talent acquisition. And what happens here is, again, this does not only apply to in the industry of hiring. It can apply to anything, as these are the fundamentals. Now, the next question is, how can you actually leverage more on machine learning? Now with Facebook Pixel, as we all know, there's an algorithm, there's machine learning to it, whatever it may be. Now, how you can actually leverage it is going back to when I first spoke about your different ad objectives, right? Facebook will offer you a ton of ad objectives that you can choose from. And there really is no one answer to what works for you. I do believe you need to go through a couple of A/B testing, which is why you want to do a lot of different campaigns, take a look at which one works, and based on what works, then we put more of your budget into it, right? It's really more on a cost effectiveness point of scenario. At the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're getting the biggest impact with the smallest amount of investment. So that's what you can get. Now, knowing what the data points are in Google Analytics, here are some things that you can actually learn. Which pages are getting visibility organically and which ones are buried. And again, this is a matter of merchandising it on your site, or for lack of a better term, organizing the layout on your sitemap or your website, right? So if you notice that some of the jobs or some of the pages are not getting enough views organically, then you might as well shift out the way the site is positioned, or where the actual URLs and the links are cited, right? So overall, once you know all of these data points, you'll be able to understand which pages have a low rate of conversion. And for everybody's context, a conversion rate essentially means how many people go to the website and what percentage of those people actually decide to go to the next step, or in this case, actually perform an action that you want, which is to click on the opt-in button, submit the form, whatever it may be. The higher your conversion rates, then the better it is that your overall ecosystem is working. The money that you spend on Facebook is working harder for you. The lower your conversion rate, that means the money that you spent, essentially it might be the wrong audience, or it might be an audience with potential, but it's not just there yet. So there's a lot of back and forth in terms of analyzing this data that you need to do. But overall, what I really wanted to share to you guys is the power of data. And I think the gap nowadays in terms of advertising is we don't appreciate this data enough, as we don't know what actionable steps we can get from it. But really, with the power of data, you can do almost anything, right? So the next question is, are you actually missing out on your low-hanging fruits, right? Are there already some ideal customers on your website, on your messenger bot, that are already your ideal hires, but then just haven't opted in yet, just haven't taken the next step, just haven't taken action? So this is where retargeting comes in. So retargeting is a term on advertising wherein we're following people based on the actions they've taken, right? So, and I'll go through this very quickly. Um, on Facebook, if you remember earlier on in my slides, I did present a video that's probably around a minute, 6 minutes long. Now, if you have a very engaging video, that's a little bit in the long format videos, more than 1 minute, more than 3 minutes, and you have a varying amounts of individuals who watch the videos in different types of duration. Meaning you have people who watch it for 10 seconds, you have people who watch it for 30 seconds, you have people who watch it for the overall video. Now, with the data points that I have explained earlier, you can actually track how many people are watching a bigger percentage duration of the video, right? So what does that mean? I do believe it's safe to assume that then people who watch your video longer are people who are more engaged with your brand, people who are more willing to explore a relationship with your brand, and people who are more willing to consider taking the next step, which in this case, as an ad, is actually clicking, right? So what you want to do here, you want to take a look at people who are making these high-level events, but haven't clicked yet, right? So we're taking a look at people who have watched your video 75%, 100%, maybe 30 seconds of the video, but haven't actually gone to the next step, which is visit your landing page, visit your bot, or whatever it may be. Now, a lot of people ask me why does this happen? And the answer is very simple. As you go through a person's daily life, there's a lot of things that can distract them from their feed. Maybe they need to go to the grocery. Maybe they need to go do an errand. Maybe they just had to go to the restroom. Whatever it may be, when a customer stops their journey at any point in time as they scroll to their feed, then we want to make sure we hook that customer back into the customer journey. And this is essentially what we call customer journey mapping, wherein you are making sure you know each touch point of your customer as they go through your whole hiring process, and make sure there are no fall-offs. And if there are fall-offs, we make sure to hook them back. And another example of this would be retargeting, or based on message responses, right? So let's say you have people who have opted in your messenger bot, and you have people who are ready to schedule an interview, but they just didn't click on that call to action button. So what happens here is that two things. Number one, you can do automated follow-ups. This is something that TalkPush can do as well. Automated follow-ups is wherein you can detect when a customer has stopped actually interacting with the bot and send them a follow-up, right? And this is all automated. Or in terms of advertising, if you're going to use paid media to actually do this, then you want to retarget people who actually message you within a period of time. So if you're doing very fast scaling in terms of massive hiring on a daily level, and you're spending maybe around more than $500, more than $1,000 every day at some point, what you want to do is take a look at your time durations, right? You want to retarget people who have not gone to the next step, let's say within 1 to 3 days, and within the past time. So this means that people who have not opted in or who have not done the next step within the 7-day, 14-day period are not really people you're actually looking for, because you want people who are more engaged. You want high-level hires. You want people who can give you the most value, and people who show you that kind of engagement, who show you that kind of interest at this phase already at the beginning. And these are people you may actually want to consider retargeting, because they can provide you and they have the behavior of what is indication to something that's worthwhile exploring. So that really is retargeting based on message responses. And now we move on to the next type of retargeting, right? To find out if you do have these low-hanging fruits on your website. This is where I think we can get the very creative, which is based on website visits. And I'll give you a quick example. Let's say I have 5 job pages on my website, and they're a mix of rank and file to C-level to managerial level, whatever it may be, right? And we know how much traffic is going to each of the pages. We know the bounce rate, we know the page scrolls, we know all the data points. But then it looks like that with pages with high traffic, don't actually end up with a lot of leads. So what does this mean? Again, it might be something because their customer journey was stopped. Maybe they got distracted at one point. But then what happens here is that you can actually retarget or follow these people who have visited specific pages on your website. And we can define this by URL. So based on your website, company ABC / job title, right? So the specific syntax of each URL, you can actually track how many people and retarget people based on the specific URL they are visiting, based on the syntax of your URL. So although again, this is very surface level in terms of what you can explore in terms of retargeting your website visits. There is a whole lot of things you can go about in terms of retargeting, but these are the main key action steps that you guys can already take to make sure that you are tracking all of these data points, and you're actually following up with your high level leads and leads who are that indicate that high level value for your business, right? Depending on what they may be.
That's really great. That's
awesome.
definitely really great. Sorry to rush you. We're getting short of time, but if you maybe just can wrap it up within a couple of minutes, and then we can just go with one more question. It's definitely great. All of those advices is definitely a great presentation. But yeah, like I said, we're kind of like going out of time. Can you wrap it up within, I don't know, maybe the next 2 minutes?
Yeah, no worries. This is my last slide actually. So essentially, I'd want to suggest to let the data work for you. You will always have your assumed behavior, your actual behavior, and you want to always adjust and optimize. What you think will happen will not always be the thing that happens, and you always want to adapt to it. That's essentially what I want to convey. Overall, it always will take a village to make sure that your marketing is an ecosystem. I won't go through this, but I do have an example of how the ecosystem will look like, wherein you have your organic and paid traffic going to your pages, and you can request information from your customers all the way to the third part, which is qualifying a lead, all the way to scheduling an interview. But overall, I'm pretty sure you guys will get the slides, so I can end my session from there. I do hope everybody here got some value out of it. Thank you.
That's great. Like I said, David, and just taking advantage that you're here with the microphone, there's actually a question. It's a great question here for you.
Oh, sure.
I would like to ask you this as a question for David. What resources do you recommend for those of us who are starting out with marketing metrics? What can I read, and what metrics should I be focusing on?
Sure, right. In terms of metrics, everything I did present earlier on is good to have. I would suggest taking a look at your CTR, your click-through rates, and also your costs per link click. But then if you're looking at a very important data point, I would say to take a look at your cost per lead. So if you're actually doing if you're doing advertising to get hires, you want to know how much you're actually spending to get one hire. And out of those, all the hires you got from online advertising, if they are qualified or not. Overall, I do think those are the very important data points to take a look at. In terms of resources, there's a lot on YouTube that you can take a look at. Also, Facebook has their own native knowledge bank that you can take a look at. It's called Facebook Blueprint. Essentially it walks you through the basics, also the basics of data points that you can take a look at. But
well, this question was directed at David. I thought I could also chip in to say, this is Max, Talk Push, that the cost per lead is great, but you can also then go further down the funnel. Cost per schedule interview, cost per show rate, cost per hire, of course, cost per hire that stays there beyond the 3 months probation period. And then compare those in order to get a deeper understanding of each ad and each channel performance.
Thank you. That's really great. Well, like I said, we're running out of time, but if you do have more questions, feel free. I put my email on the chat, so feel free to just send me an email, and we'll be happy to answer those. I hope everybody enjoyed this, had a good time and enjoyed with us this webinar. And thank you so much. Thank you, David. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Max, one more time. And see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks, David.
Thanks, guys.
Talk to you soon, Adam. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.